Is anyone able to confirm that they can hear me in the chat room? Let me know if you guys can hear me, and then we'll get started shortly. I know there's going to be a short delay here, and this is the first time I'm testing out the live YouTube feature. Okay, so it looks like... Great. All right, looks like we're up. I at least got one confirmation. That's good for me. If the mic is poor, this is all sort of an experiment, so I sort of expect things to kind of go wrong here. This is the first time with this software and going off live, so just bear with me. Hopefully this is clear. Hopefully you guys can see everything okay. If not, just drop a comment, that way I can see it in the chat. Hopefully, as we do more of these, we'll start to fix them. So basically, if you guys watch the usual YouTube videos that I do, I'm pretty much going to run through just a couple of things I'm looking at, mostly on the market. It's going to be real short. If you guys have questions, stocks that you want me to look at, that's basically why I'm doing the live format. If you guys have questions, then feel free. So we're just going to kick things off here with the S&P 500, the SPY ETF. And this is what I'm looking at. Right now, we had an exciting start to the week, right? We had this nice pop yesterday in the S&P 500, so we opened up about 1% gap higher. We tried to push up, got as high as about 209.60, and then we ultimately failed, closed on the lows. So that was a bit of a failure to just kind of really rip it to the upside to try and catch, quote, people off guard. That attempt sort of failed, and we closed on the lows. Now, I wouldn't call it a waste because we still got off of these lows down here from 206, and we saw breadth really improve yesterday. We did see a lot of stocks advance yesterday despite the sort of lackluster, uninspiring close. So I think there was at least some movement to the upside that made this constructive. And so far today, though, it's just another lackluster day, right? We're not seeing too much happen here. It's very sluggish. Internals are just break even, right? And it seems like the markets are in sort of a wait and see phase right now, and that probably makes sense, right? We have this Brexit that people can't stop talking about. I'm not even I know it's coming up in a couple of days here, and get those results soon, and hopefully even sooner, because I want to get going in this market, right? This type of range and this type of day is not a day that I like to trade at all. I think this is just generally here. It's going to frustrate the majority of people days like today, and you're really not going to get too much trading opportunity in these tight ranges. So for me, what I'm looking at is a break above basically yesterday's highs, or 209.25, 209.50. If we can start to clear this level, that's when I get a lot more excited. And I go back to this weekly chart that I've been showing for quite some time, and this trend line, we're right at it, right? We're right bumping against this. And I think that this is why we're seeing such hesitation here, because it's a very high stakes level. We're at the top of a multi-year range now, and if we start to really clear above 210 with some authority, then that is very significant. So that's sort of what I'm looking at here as far as that trend line goes. On the downside, we have this gap which we haven't quite filled yet. Go to a 15-minute chart of the SPY ETF now. You can see that we really haven't filled Monday's gap all the way. Down here around sub 207 is where we would start to fill those prices. So we need to see, can we hold in here? You can see the action today is really tight, and we were just trying to break below this 208 a few minutes ago, and you can see we're starting to get some dip buyers here. So the market's still stubbornly in place right now. If we could somehow hold this 207.80 level and make a higher low, and then start to head back up and retest and challenge 209.25, I think that's also very constructive. But you can see we're very clearly in a short-term range here, 205.75 to about 209.25, right? That's the range that we're playing in right now. And until we resolve out of that, it's just sitting on your hands and kind of waiting to see what happens. At least that's the way we're sort of approaching it. So that's sort of the thoughts there. Nothing really changed on the S&P 500. That's what we're looking at. All the other markets, very similar. You have the Qs, which are basically flat day, and the IWM, which is underperforming today on a relative basis. I know biotech's weak and things going on there, but I'm not going to read too much into it right now. So that's sort of the stance across the market, in my opinion. A couple of names that I just want to point out here, and if you guys have any questions, let me know. So The first is UNG, and this is a trade that we've been in for quite some time now, and I'm still continually sort of impressed with the momentum here, and I really like the position that we still have in it. We've taken profits, but notice a few things here. I mean, this was a big pattern that we broke out of here. This is a bottoming kind of wedge pattern that we broke out, channel wedge, call it what you want. There's two different ways to interpret it, but, you know, UNG has been crushed severely for the past several years, and we finally got that breakout at the very end of May, and we've been just in this strong momentum phase, not even coming close to the 8-period EMA for this one little minor test here just last week. So this is strong. Notice the MACD here is still on the rise, so we're still making new highs, new momentum highs on the MACD. That's very constructive. I continue to like this long trade, and I have a feeling that most people have either missed it or are fighting it, thinking that UNG is still this dead, commodity that just hasn't performed, and that certainly has been the case. They, not wrong for thinking that, but right now the market has been telling you this is a clear change of character for sure. If you bring up volume, you can see the nice volume pattern in here. This is one that I've been really wanting to see explode, and finally we're getting it, and this is after getting my hand kind of slapped a few times for chasing breakouts in April. Now, the cause here is the weekly chart, right, where you can see we're finally just getting that 8 and 20 EMA bullish crossover, and that's just happening now. So again, it just goes to speak of how damaged this really was. And if you look on a year-to-date basis, I believe we're still down on the year almost 5%, and we are, still 5% on the downside for this year. So maybe we need to get back to flat. Maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know. We're still involved in this. This had a beautiful consolidation here for about a week, all of last week, and then we saw the breakout Monday. So I think, again, this is sort of a day one. Yesterday was a breakout. Today's day two follow through, a little off the highs, but still constructive. So we continue to remain in this position, and we're certainly looking to trim some profits here as we start to elevate above 835 or so, but for now I like it, right? Momentum's to the upside. Next, let's take a quick look at HON. We've talked about this one, much more boring, right? This is an industrial name, Honeywell. It doesn't move a whole lot, but I just like this. I'm just pointing it out because it was one of the first on my scans for today. Had a nice break to all-time highs yesterday. Got a little failure, but still, things are sluggishly kind of working. This is going to be for you longer-term players out there. I'm not going to go too much into it. I've already talked about it, so take a look at HON. Next, Alibaba. This one is staying very resilient here, and this is one that is looking like it wants to stay penned up here. It's looking like it has this magnet and this date to just kind of test and perhaps break above this $80 level. It hasn't been very much in play since the IPO, right? Had this quick initial move higher above 100, and then it just basically has sunk lower and been in a trading range. Whether or not we're out of that trading range phase is yet to be seen, but you can see this is the pattern here on the weekly chart, and we're just kind of bumping up against this trend line here that's extended off from mid 2015. So let's see if $80, that's kind of the bogey. Let's see if it can finally get a break above here. This is a pretty large cap stock. I mean, I think the market cap's north of 200 billion. So this is a big name. So let's see what happens here. I know it was in the news quite a bit. Something I'm watching, and I think it's pretty interesting if we can start to get a move above $80. Finally, the last one I'm going to talk about, so this is going to be real short, is one that we got involved in yesterday, and I super like this pattern, LRCX. Take a look at this. It's not doing too much today. We got involved in it yesterday for a breakout. Semiconductor name. Look at this weekly chart. I mean, this is just absolute picture perfect basing action here. Healthy digestion at highs. You can see MACD is starting to move on this breakout here, trying to get above the highs from April, and this has just been in a consolidation for quite some time. This is a monthly chart, right? Looks even better. It's been in a long-term uptrend for quite some time. Again, digesting for 2 years. Looks really good. We're involved in this. We still only have a partial position just because we're a little uneasy on where the market is right now, but super like it. This is a good-looking setup, and for you guys that like breakouts, or at least even day trading some momentum, keep this one on your radar. So Any questions? I know the stream is probably a little delayed. I think I'm probably about 30 seconds ahead of you guys if you're looking at it right now live. So let me know if you guys have any questions. That's all I have. I mean, I have plenty more I could cover, but I just want to keep it short on today. Tony, yeah, that UNG, I hear you. I mean, I get it, trying to fight this UNG, but it's good, good that you're in a short position. It seems like you understand what you're kind of going up against. So, hey, it might work, right? We might get some big reversion to the downside. Anything's possible, right? But for now, I see that momentum still rising. Falling wedge patterns in both Netflix and Apple. I own both. Okay, so I guess it depends on your time frame here. Apple, I don't mind if you have Apple on here. Again, it's just going to really depend on your time frame. For a trading standpoint, quick trading standpoint, swing trading, kind of like what we do, multi-day holds, I don't see anything here, right? I wouldn't own Apple in my trading account. For my long-term account, I actually do own Apple as well, but that's more of an investment account. So with Apple, here's the way I look at it, is you have a really good line in the sand right around $92. And we talked about this level before. We had that false breakdown below it in May, and that proved to be a failed breakdown. And we're still above it. So I think it's noisy right now. Apple's extremely noisy, and I think you just need to kind of dial it back. Weekly chart is probably where you want to be if you're owning Apple. If you're in this for a longer term, multi-month hold, you need to be looking at this chart, in my opinion, and it's just very noisy. You're at best consolidating. You could argue you're in a downtrend on a daily time frame, but in my opinion, $92, that's the key to hold. $90 if you want to give it a little more room, somewhere around here. If you start to really make new trending lows, that's when I'd be a bit more concerned. Again, it's going to come down to time frame. But I think it's just noisy. It's doing what it should be doing. Again, 8 and 20 is pointing down. That's bearish momentum. So Apple's got to prove itself, and it's got to fill this gap and prove itself. So that's the way I'm sort of looking at it. On Netflix, it's kind of a similar boat, right? If from a trading standpoint, I would not want to own this. I don't see any edge here. If you're in this for a longer term hold, Netflix is in a holding pattern, just the same, right? It's in this big consolidation phase, and you got to expect just a ton of noise when you're in a weekly holding pattern like this. You could argue we could have some type of expansion in volatility and range here soon if it starts to break out of this little kind of triangle that it's been forming in. I think that's interesting. Otherwise, again, similar to Apple, I think this prior swing low is important. These prior reference point pivots are going to be important. On a daily time and on a trading standpoint, again, I'm not really seeing much of an edge. Probably wants to come back down and retest 90. It's been underperforming a bit, so that's the way I'd look at it in Netflix. Thoughts on Tesla and IBB? Sure. So Tesla, from a trading standpoint, again, so I just always want to qualify this with time frame. Trading standpoint, I don't see an edge here either. We're just consolidating. It's been an incredible run, obviously, with that February, 100% gain, basically, and then we retraced about 30% of it, and it's just going sideways here. It's just kind of moving and morphing into some sideways consolidation. So, for me, for Tesla, trading standpoint, do not see an edge whatsoever. It's in a ton of prior kind of price memory here. So for me, it just doesn't appeal to me. Weekly time frame, again, long-term horizontal range. You're in the dead center of it, right? You're in the absolute middle of it, and you should expect just a ton of chop in here, right? And I wouldn't be surprised to see us just move along sideways, still from 180 to all the way up to 250, 260 for the next several weeks. And just the positioning here just doesn't have me too interested in it. Now, again, you have the latest big impulse leg was the upside. You had a small 30% retracement, right? So, again, if you're a little opportunistic and you want to put a stop at like 200 and try and own Tesla for another retest of the highs, I don't mind that. Just note you're playing in this very large sort of contained range. So that's sort of the way I look at Tesla. I think there's other opportunity out there that's a little more interesting. IBB, you're at an inflection point right now. So if you're a mean reversion kind of trader, if you think this market's going to bounce, right? If you think you've overblown this Brexit, whatever, if you're into the news and all that stuff. I think IBB's at a pretty interesting buy level. Again, it needs to prove itself, but it's basically sold off like 10 or 11 days now, or even more, since beginning of June, really. It's been in this spiral downward. So you should be able to hopefully catch the support here, and maybe you get some type of reversal trade. What would interest me, and I would get long IBB, is if we saw, I would like to see, this is my personal opinion, but preference, but I would like to see some nice washout. So even if it's today or ideally tomorrow, I'd love to see downside go all the way down to 245 or 240, and then see a nice big reversal candle, right? And try and see some type of bottoming actually happen, some type of capitulation, right? That's what I would like to see, some type of kind of event happen here to say that there's a potential short-term bottom at a prior level of support. That would be a reversal signal I would like to trade. So for now, it should be on watch maybe for a bounce, but until it actually does that, I wouldn't really want to touch it too much. BKD. I've never looked at this stock. BKD. Okay. Again, going to depend on time frame, right? So daily time frame, we're off the lows for February. That's constructive. We're as high as about $19, and we're pulling back. So again, I think the weekly time frame is going to smooth this out. And this is a good example, right? So BKD, you're in this sharp, fierce downtrend, basically since mid-2015. It lost more than 60% of its value. It snapped this rise, this declining trend line, had this nice push higher, and now starting to retrace. Typically, when you have such violent momentum trend to the downside, you have that initial snap, you get this nice little squeeze, and generally you go into a basing pattern. It's very rare to see some type of V bottom and just a complete push to the upside. So for me, this is what kind of markets do, right? This is kind of the general behavior here, and I really wouldn't be surprised to see BKD come down and try and get close or retest or develop some type of range and come back down to 13, 12, this prior lows. I'm not saying it's getting there, I'm not saying it has to get there, but when you have a violent momentum event like that downtrend that took place in late 2015, typically markets will start to go into this chopping basing pattern, and you're going to just get a lot of movement back and forth, and then eventually you'll get that kind of breakout of the upside. That's the way I sort of think about BKD. So just think about that bigger picture there. Again, it's going to depend on time frame. 8 and 20, you can see starting to curl back over. So sort of the way I'd look at it. GDX. So we have a name here. We're long one of these names in the gold miners. So for GDXJ, let's start with gold first, right? Let's just start with gold. And yeah, you're right. It still does not want to kind of break through this range. But I would argue, still, again, you guys keep the big picture in mind, right? These weekly time frames. I mean, this is great looking action here, right? If you want to be a gold bull, this is as good as it's gotten for the past many years. Perfect, well-defined channel, a bearish down channel here for the past several years, and now we saw a break above the upper band, upper trend line, and then we're moving sideways in this consolidation. I mean, this is healthy action, right? I still don't see anything wrong with this, and you got the 8 and 20 moving higher, so it's I agree with you, it's stubbornly not wanting to continue for a second leg higher, but certainly wouldn't want to write this off yet. It's still kind of an innocent till proven guilty, in my opinion, on the weekly time frame. I think the bulls still are in the control here. They are taking their time, but that's the way I'm looking at it. So maybe we need more fill in here, but I wouldn't write gold off yet. I wouldn't be doing much with it, but as far as shorting it or getting too bearish on it, I wouldn't be doing that either. Now, as far as the gold miners go with the seniors first. The gold, GDX, similar situation. I own a gold miner, BVN, so I am partially in this trade, and The gold miners hit a pretty, again, this is a different chart now than gold, right? They hit a pretty significant level up here at $27. This has been resistance, and this was the top end of a range here for 2013, 2014. So just be aware that 27 is a pretty big level. You can see the hesitation there. We could arguably be in a new sort of multi-year range in between $13.55 and $27. And hell, this range could take place for the next, many months, right? If market, sort of behavior and past has taught us anything, right? These ranges can take quite a while. So we're at the top end of a range. Just realize that. So it's done a lot of work this year just alone. But for back to the daily time frame, it's in an uptrend, right? It's above the 8 and 20 period. So it is in an uptrend. It is stalling a bit here. For me, I would really like to see the gold miners kind of just hold the top half of this range, right? I'd like to see continuation higher above 27. That's certainly what I'd like to see as well. But as long as they hold above here, the midpoint of the range, that's sort of, that's constructive. And then really this is going to be the big level that the GDX is going to have to defend is right around $22. So sort of the way I'm looking at it, it's in an uptrend. You just got to give it time. Depends on your time frame. Depends what you're trying to capture out of this. But, it's bullish. So, I think that's it, right? If you guys have anything else, let me know. I think that pretty much caught everything up. I'm glad nothing broke. So yeah, this is new YouTube Live, which I've never done before. So this is kind of cool. I like this format, and I might be doing more of these. So, yeah, why don't we call it with that? So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll probably be doing more of these. Going to just take a look at it, and the recording should be up automatically in a few hours. So, have a great rest of the trading day. Let's take a look at what the SPY is doing. 0827, so still not doing much. I think we missed too much here. Still take a look at this 15-minute little triangle that this is that we've been trading in. We're still there, so... I do this more often for subs. Yeah, this is what I do for subs. I put out a daily note every day. So I basically write like my thoughts on the market that we opened up with. I basically write all of that out in email format and text format, and I send that to subscribers. So I don't do live videos only because it makes people have to be there for them, and I would certainly be up for it, right? But I don't currently do it, but it's something I need to think about doing. I just don't like to have to force people to get on at a certain time to see it. I know it does archive the recording, but I feel like for analysis for members, email format's easy. If they're on their phone, they get it, they read it anywhere they're going. So that's kind of what I do for them. I cover similar things. All of our positions and all that stuff is sent out daily. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It was fun, and yeah, probably be doing more of these in the future. So figure out how to turn this thing off. And here it is. Have a good day. Thanks.